Though we could no longer relate to God properly, our intrinsic orientation to worship remained. What was meant to direct the gift of ourselves to God instead led us to give ourselves to lesser things, idols of wood and stone, money and sexual debauchery, worship of ourselves or fallen angels. God in his mercy continued to reach out to us, never abandoning us to this darkened state. We see how the sons of Adam attempted to offer themselves to God, offering produce of the field or flock, killed and burned on an altar, given back to God. God accepted such sacrifices provided the one offering truly was trying to offer his very self by the sacrifice. This interior disposition is really the difference between the accepted offering of Abel and the half-hearted outward sacrifice of Cain. The sacrifice of grain or animals was really the outward sign of their inward offering. They knew that they themselves deserved to die because of their sin, but God in his mercy accepted the death of the offering in their place. Yet even this combination of inward and outward offering was inadequate, for it could not fix the chasm between man and God due to sin. We see this dynamic of offering sacrifice to God throughout the history of the Hebrew people, a people that God chooses from among all people to actively draw back to himself. Abraham offered sacrifice to God at shrines. The priest King Melchizedek offered bread and wine to God for Abraham. And Abraham is so faithful to God that he is even willing to sacrifice his only son, Isaac, to God. God prevents him and himself provides the sacrifice. God promises Abraham and his descendants a land for the purpose of having a place to worship him rightly. When Abraham's descendants, the 12 tribes of Israel, are displaced from this land into Egypt, they are held not just in physical slavery, but in a spiritual slavery of worshiping the false gods of the Egyptians. God, in his unfailing desire to lead his people, his firstborn Israel, back to himself, sent Moses to lead them out of Egypt so that they could sacrifice their idolatrous ways and worship him alone. To do this, God saved the firstborn of the Israelites through the celebration of the Passover meal. A lamb was sacrificed in their place, consecrating them back to God. But even though God brought them from physical slavery, even as he gave them his law so that they could give themselves to him both internally and externally, they would turn from him and worship a golden idol. Though he saved them with power and might, claiming them for his own, so they could live in freedom and union with him, they refused to worship him the way he gave them, but rather attempted to worship God in the way of their own choosing, the golden calf. But if we decide on our own how to worship God, this attempt will turn into our own self-aggrandizement. Such it was for the Israelites, who rose to dance and revel to their own self-indulgent pleasure. Once again they turned from God. Once again they chose to separate themselves from him. But while we are unfaithful, God is ever faithful, as we will see.